Let's recall the concept of direct and inverse proportion. If y is directly proportional to x, then y equals to kx, where k is a constant. And for inverse, if y is inversely proportional to x, then y equals the k over x. Let's recall also about the table proportion for direct and inverse proportion. So if y is directly proportional to x, then y1 over x1 equals to y2 over x2. From here we can see 15 divided by 1 is 15. The same as 30 divided by 2 is 15. And the table proportion for inverses. x1 times y1 equals to x2 times y2. So 10 times 12 is 120 and 20 times 6 is 120. Okay, now let's discuss questions number 1. In the convenience store, a total of $20 is required to purchase 8 kilograms of apples. If John currently has $27 and intends to buy 14 kilograms of apples, how much additional money does he need? This is the problem involving direct proportion. Because the more number of apples he buys, then the more money he spends. Okay, so let's write the things that you want to find on the right side. This is the question asking how much additional money. Asking about money. So let's write the header of money or cost on the right side. And let's write the header of apples on the left side. Okay, so we see that $20 is required to purchase 8 kilograms of apples. So 8 kilograms cost $20. Alright, and if John currently has $27 and intend to buy 14 kilograms of apples, let's find for 1 kilogram apple first. You can see from 8 to be 1, we divide it by 8. Since we divide the left side by 8, we need to also divide the right side by 8. So 20 over 8. And then the question asking for 14 kilograms. So, from 1 to be 14, we times it by 14. We do the same thing. We times this also by 14. So 20 over 8 times 14. Then we divide 20 and 8 by 4. So we get 5 and 2. And then 2 and 14 we can simplify again. We divide by 2. This is 1 and this is 7, so 5 times 7 is 35. Okay, so from here we know that 14 kilogram apples cost $35. But this is not the final answer, because the question asks how much additional money. Here we know that John only has $27. So if the total cost of 14 kilogram is $35, it means that John's needs 35 subtract $27. So the conclusions is John needs $8 more to buy 14 kilogram of apples. Okay, next number 2. If t is directly proportional to cube root of s and t is equal to 16, 1 is equals to 64, find an equation connecting s and t. So before you write the general equations for this information, let's recall again the terminology about the power and root. Okay, so remember, we can write square root of s as this. But if it's without root, if it is only square, we write as s to the power of 2. For cube root of s, we write it under the root and put number 3 on the cube like this. But if it is only the cube, we write it as s to the power of 3. Since this is cube root, then we write like this. T is directly proportional to cube root of s. So the general equation would be t equals to k times cube root of s. Let's find a value of k by substitute t equals to 16. And s equals to 64 in this equation. So 16 equals the k times cube root of 64. Okay, now let's find the cube root of 64. We can find it using factor tree. Let's write it here. So we divide this by 2, we get 32. We divide by 2, we get 16, and divide by 2. We get 8, divide by 2, we get 4. Divide by 2, we get 2, right? So 64 is 2 times 2 to 2. Okay, so cube root of 64 equals to cube root of 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Let's group the three same numbers. How many groups do we have? Let's count. This is the first group and this is the second group. After that, let's take out one number from each group. So from here we know that cube root of 64 is 2 times 2 is 4. Now let's put it here. So 16 equals the k times 4. And then to find the value of k, we divide both sides by 4. So no more k in 16 divided by 4, it is 4. So the equation connecting s and t is. Let's refer again to the original, and then let's write the complete equation is t equals to 4 times cube root of s. This would be the answer for A. Next, find the value of t when s is 216. Let's use the equation we found in A. So from A we know that b equals to 4 times cube root of s. T we don't know yet, so just write as t. 4 times cube root of 216. Let's use factor tree again to find the cube root of 216. So 216 we divide by 2, we get 108, divide by 2, we get 54, divide by 2. We get 27, divide by 2, cannot. So we divide by 3, we get 9, divide by 3, we get 3. Okay, so from here we can write 216 equals 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 3. Okay, now let's group the three same numbers. This is the first group, this is the second group, and then let's take one number from each group and multiply them. So this is 2 and this is 3. So the cube root of 216 is 6. Now let's put it here. So t equals to 4 times 6, t equals 24. Next, let's find the value of s when t equals to 12. To find the value of s, we can use the equation in A. So let's write again the equation. The equation is t equals to 4 times cube root of s. T is 12. Equals to 4 times cube root of s. To make s alone, first, let's get rid 4. To get rid 4, we divide both sides by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3. Okay, next, to remove the cube root, we have to cube it. If you cube the right side, then we need to cube also the left sides. Cube, root and cube. The root is gone, now on the right side only s. And on the left side we have 3 cubed. 3 cubed means 3 times 3 times 3. It is 27. So as is 27, this is the answer for C. Let's go to the next questions. If Q is inversely proportional to P cube, and Q is 3 when P is 2. Now let's write the general equation for this information. So the equation would be Q is equal to K over 2P cube. And now let's find a value of K by substitute Q equals to 3 and P equals to 2 into this equation. So 3 equals to K over 2 times the cube of 2. So 3 equals the K over 2 times 8. The 3 equals the K over 16. And then we do cross multiplication. So k equals to 16 times 3 is 48. Okay, so the general equations connecting P and Q is Q equals to 48 over 2P cubed. And next we simplify. 48 divides by 2 is 24. So this is the equation connecting P and Q. And we are going to use this to solve B and C. B, find the value of Q and P is 3. So let's write again the question. Q is 24 over P cubed. Q is we don't know yet, so just write as Q and then P is 3. So we need to substitute it here. So Q is 24 over 27, and we divide both sides by 3. So we get 8 over 9. Next, find the value of P when Q is 3 out of 8. Let's use the same equation, so let's write it again. Q equals to 24 over P cubed. Q is 3 over 8. So we substitute it here, and 24 over P cubed. Next, let's do cross multiplication 3 times. P cubed is 3P cubed, equals to 8 times 24. And then to find the value of P, we have to divide both sides by 3 first. So P cubed is 8 times 24 over 3. From here we can simplify 3 and 24. This is 1, this is 8, 8 is 64. To find P, we need to cube root 64. We have discussed this in question 2. And remember, the answer is 4. Okay, next, let's discuss about number 4. Given that 8 identical taps can fill a tank in 45 minutes, how many more minutes will it take for 5 of the taps to fill such tank? This is the problem involving inverse proportion. I will show you the methods. First, we will use the unitary method, and the second one, we will use the proportion method. So if you want to use unitary method, let's write the things that we want to find on the right, since we want to find the time. So let's put the times on the right, and put the taps on the left. So from here we know that 8 taps is 45 minutes. Before we find for 5 taps, we need to find for 1 tap, from 8 to be 1. We divide by 8, since this is inverse proportions. Then we need to use the opposite of the operations. So we divide by 8, the opposite is times by 8. 45 times 8 is 360. If you want to find for 5 of taps, then we times by 5 for the left side. We need to divide this by 5. So 360 divides by 5 is 72. But this is not the final answer, because the question asks how many more. To find how many more minutes, then, we need to subtract 45 minutes from 72 minutes. It needs 72. Subtract 45 minutes is 27 more minutes. This is his unitary method. Now I will show you also using proportion method. If you want to use the proportion method, we need to draw a table of taps and minutes, like this. So, 8 taps, 45 minutes. And then we want to find for 5 taps, which we don't know yet. Remember, if this is inverse, then we can times x1 by y1 and x2 by y2. So 8 times 45 equals to 5 times n, and then to find the n, we divide both side by 5. Okay, so here we know 8 times 45 over 5. And then we can simplify 5 and 45 is 9. So from here we know that n equals to 8 times 9 is 72. At the end is the same. It needs 72 minus 45 equals 27. Okay, next for number 5. 5. A wildlife sanctuary has enough food to feed 90 animals for 10 days. If 30 animals are moved to another sanctuary, how many more days will the food last for the remaining animals? Okay, so from here we know this is also inverse proportion. Because the less number of animals, the more days they need to finish it. Let's use the table proportions here. So there are two quantities here: animals and the number of days. So we can write, here is the animals and the number of days. 90 animals, 10 days. Okay, but be careful. 30 animals are moved to another century. So if 30 animals moved from 90, then we need to subtract first. So the remaining is 60. "60 animals, how many days?" So x1 times y1 equals x2 times y2. "90 times 10 equals to 60 times n, and use balancing method, we divide both sides by 60. N equals to 15. But be careful, this is not the final answer. Because the questions ask you to find how many more days will the food last for the remaining animals. It needs 15, subtract 10. 5 more days. This is the final answer.